China has always felt like a vast stage, a place where nature, time, and human hands come together to create things that reach far beyond ordinary imagination. Across this enormous land, everything seems to exist on a different scale. A mountain is never just a mountain. A river is never just a river. And some of the landscapes that appear before your eyes can make you wonder whether they were shaped by nature itself or by some impossibly bold human dream. Over millions of years, wind, water, stone, and light have quietly done their work. They have carved, eroded, lifted, shadowed, and shaped the land, leaving behind strange and beautiful forms that no human hand could ever draw with such precision. From mountains rising into the clouds, to valleys cut deep through layer after layer of ancient rock, to places that seem as if they could only exist in the imagination, China holds landscapes that leave viewers in awe, with the feeling that they are stepping into another world. Right now, we begin a breathtaking journey through places that may make you feel as though you are entering a world that is not entirely real.
Qiantang River tidal bore. For our final destination, we leave the silent, hidden depths of the underground rivers and emerge violently onto the turbulent, highly exposed eastern coast of Zhejiang province, where we will stand face to face with one of the most aggressive, terrifying, and completely uncontrollable forces of raw nature ever witnessed by human eyes. You are about to experience the absolute, catastrophic fury of the Qiantang River tidal bore, a massive, roaring wall of water widely known as the Silver Dragon. Forget everything you think you understand about normal ocean tides gently rolling up onto a peaceful sandy beach. What happens here is a violent, explosive collision of lunar gravity, unique coastal geography, and the unstoppable, crushing momentum of the Pacific Ocean. As the massive gravitational pull of the moon aggressively drags the ocean waters directly into the incredibly narrow, sharply funnel-shaped Hangzhou Bay, the incoming tide is violently squeezed and compressed with nowhere to go but straight upstream. The terrifying result is a singular, rapidly advancing tsunami-like wave that aggressively charges against the natural flow of the mighty river. Standing securely behind the heavily reinforced concrete safety barricades, you can actually hear the deafening, thunderous roar of the approaching beast long before you can physically see it. The ground beneath your feet heavily vibrates as the colossal wall of churning, frothing brown water, often towering up to a staggering 9 meters high, violently slams into the riverbanks with the explosive, destructive force of a massive freight train. As the catastrophic wave mercilessly crushes everything in its direct path, it easily tosses massive, heavy concrete blocks and aggressively rips mature trees straight out of the earth as if they were nothing more than fragile toothpicks. The sheer, overwhelming kinetic energy displayed in this explosive, minutes-long event is absolutely mind-numbing and physically terrifying. It completely obliterates any false sense of security or dominance that modern humanity might feel over the natural world. For thousands of years, ancient Chinese emperors, brilliant engineers, and resilient local residents have desperately attempted to tame, predict, and survive this monstrous natural disaster, building massive seawalls that are continually battered and destroyed by the relentless, punishing force of the tide. Yet, despite all of our advanced modern technology and highly sophisticated engineering, the Silver Dragon remains completely untamed, aggressively asserting its devastating dominance year after year. Watching this roaring, chaotic wall of water violently tear upstream, entirely reversing the flow of a massive river and completely shattering the silence of the coastline, is a profoundly humbling, deeply intimidating, and unforgettable experience. This is not just a rare, beautiful, natural phenomenon to be casually photographed. It is a violent, heavy, and unapologetic display of the raw, brutal, and completely unyielding power of the ancient earth. Witnessing the unstoppable Silver Dragon completely dominate the landscape serves as the ultimate, spectacular climax, perfectly and dramatically concluding our deep, breathtaking descent into the terrifying and magnificent forces that have relentlessly and violently shaped this planet since the absolute dawn of deep time. Pingshan Grand Canyon and Puhua Underground River. Pulling ourselves completely away from the blinding red shores of the ocean, we now dive deep into the misty, heavily fractured heart of Hubei and Chongqing, completely surrendering to a hidden, ancient world of impossibly narrow gorges and glowing subterranean waters. You are about to actively navigate an environment so profoundly secretive and intensely claustrophobic that it genuinely feels like journeying directly through the very veins of the planet. We begin by entering the staggering, echoing depths of the Pingshan Grand Canyon, a geological masterpiece that has been violently sliced open by thousands of years of relentless water erosion. As you slowly glide forward on a small, fragile wooden boat, the massive, dark limestone cliffs rise aggressively on both sides, shooting straight up into the sky like impenetrable fortress walls. The gorge becomes so insanely narrow in certain sections that you can effortlessly reach out and simultaneously touch the cold, jagged rock faces on either side of your vulnerable vessel. Looking straight up, the sky is violently reduced to nothing but a terrifyingly thin, jagged sliver of blue, desperately trying to pierce through the heavy, suffocating darkness of the deep canyon. But the true mind-bending magic lies entirely in the water beneath you. The river flows with a mesmerizing, glassy stillness, boasting an aggressive emerald green clarity that is so impossibly transparent. Your small boat appears to be magically levitating completely in mid-air. You can clearly see every single ancient stone, every sunken branch, and the intricate, rippling textures of the riverbed resting peacefully dozens of feet below the pristine surface. It is a deeply surreal, vertigo-inducing optical illusion that completely scrambles your depth perception and forces you to question gravity itself. Just when you think the landscape cannot possibly become any more mysterious, the journey leads you directly into the gaping, pitch-black mouth of the Puhua underground river. Here, the towering open canyon aggressively and violently collapses into a massive, echoing subterranean cavern. The brilliant, sunlit emerald waters are instantly swallowed by a profound, oppressive darkness that is only broken by the dim, artificial lights mounted on your boat. As you drift silently through the cold, damp, echoing chambers of the completely submerged cave system, passing massive, dripping stalactites that hang menacingly from the unseen ceiling like the fangs of an ancient beast, the atmosphere becomes incredibly heavy and profoundly intimidating. The absolute silence of the underground world, interrupted only by the rhythmic, echoing drip of mineral-rich water and the gentle splash of your oars, creates an overwhelming sense of absolute isolation from the modern world above. You are traveling through a deeply buried, totally forgotten geological artery that has been actively flowing in the dark for millions of unrecorded years. This intensely intimate, remarkably terrifying encounter with the hidden subterranean forces of nature leaves you with a profound, lingering respect for the silent, patient, and devastatingly powerful ways that water continues to aggressively sculpt and completely hollow out the solid foundations of the earth. Stepping out of the boat and eventually emerging back into the warm, comforting embrace of the unfiltered daylight, your mind heavily struggles to fully process the sheer, terrifying magnitude of the dark, aquatic labyrinth you just survived. The aggressive, towering cliffs and the dangerously beautiful, glowing green waters combine to create an unforgettable, deeply humbling sensory experience that permanently etches itself into your memory. You are profoundly reminded that no matter how thoroughly we believe we have mapped and conquered the surface of this planet, there are still vast, entirely alien worlds breathing silently right beneath our feet, waiting patiently to be discovered by those brave enough to step into the absolute dark. Dongtai Jinaya Lake. Leaving the fiery, hallucination-inducing peaks of the Rainbow Mountains far behind in our rearview mirror, our expedition now ventures deep into the brutal, unforgiving heart of the Qaidam Desert. This is a profoundly desolate wasteland where the scorching sun relentlessly beats down on endless expanses of blowing sand and barren, cracked gravel. But just when your exhausted eyes have completely surrendered to the endless monochromatic horizon, an impossible, mind-bending mirage suddenly and violently shatters the landscape. You are staring at an incredibly vast, startlingly vibrant body of water that genuinely looks as though a massive chunk of the tropical Maldives was inexplicably dropped right into the middle of one of the absolute driest, most hostile environments on the entire planet. This is a landscape built entirely on profound, shocking contrasts. The water here is not just a standard blue. It is an aggressive, luminous emerald and sapphire hue that practically glows with a neon intensity against the bleak, lifeless desert backdrop. This breathtaking, otherworldly coloration is not a mere trick of the light, but rather the brilliant natural result of extremely high concentrations of rare lithium and complex mineral salts actively dissolving beneath the pristine surface. As you cautiously approach the silent shoreline, you will quickly realize that you are not walking on normal beach sand. The entire edge of the massive lake is heavily encrusted with thick, jagged, crystallized salt formations that aggressively mimic the visual appearance of a frozen, wintry shoreline. The visual contradiction of seeing what looks exactly like pure white snow and ice while standing in a blistering high-altitude desert will completely scramble your senses. Stepping onto these brilliant white, cracked textures produces a loud, satisfying crunch under your heavy boots, creating a deeply surreal, almost extraterrestrial physical experience. The blinding white salt crust creates a flawless, mirror-like boundary that perfectly frames the vivid turquoise waters, heavily amplifying the intense visual shock of the harsh environment. The sheer, uninterrupted isolation of this remote location is absolutely deafening. There are no bustling crowds, no distant sounds of modern civilization, and barely any visible signs of native wildlife. Just the howling, arid desert wind and the gentle rhythmic lapping of the beautiful, yet completely undrinkable water. Standing alone on this blindingly white, crystallized crust, completely surrounded by a barren, sweeping wasteland that stretches uninterrupted for hundreds of miles in every single direction, you cannot help but feel a deep, overwhelming sense of planetary insignificance. It is a stunning, quiet testament to the bizarre, unpredictable artistry of extreme geological chemistry. This profoundly hidden oasis forces you to fundamentally reconsider the boundaries of natural beauty, proving beyond any doubt that even in the most lifeless, desolate, and forgotten corners of our world, the ancient Earth is still highly capable of painting a breathtaking, awe-inspiring masterpiece. Xiaozhai Tiankeng. You are standing on the precipice of a literal abyss, peering down into the deepest and largest natural sinkhole on the entire planet. Nestled deep within the remote, mist-shrouded mountains of Chongqing Municipality, This colossal geological scar looks exactly like a massive, violent crater left behind by an ancient meteorite impact. However, this staggering void was not created by anything falling from the sky. It was brutally carved out from below by the relentless, invisible force of an underground river, slowly eroding the limestone bedrock over hundreds of thousands of years. The sheer physical scale of this yawning chasm is completely incomprehensible until you are actually standing right on the terrifying edge. The vertical drop plummets down an astonishing 662 meters, plunging so incredibly deep into the crust of the Earth that it could comfortably swallow some of the tallest skyscrapers in the world without a single antenna poking out of the top. As you begin the exhausting, nerve-wracking descent down the steep, slippery rock walls, you immediately notice a drastic shift in the atmosphere. The air becomes noticeably thicker, incredibly heavy, and drenched in a constant clinging humidity. The bright, familiar sunlight of the surface world is rapidly choked out, replaced by an eerie, filtered green twilight that barely reaches the deep bottom. You are not just climbing down into a dark hole, you are actively descending into a completely lost prehistoric world that has remained completely isolated from the rest of the planet for absolute millennia. What makes this colossal void truly mind-bending is the fact that it possesses a fully functioning, completely self-contained microclimate and a thriving, hidden ecosystem. Down here in the perpetual shadows, a dense, wildly overgrown subterranean jungle flourishes. The incredibly moist, sheltered environment has allowed extremely rare, ancient species of flora and fauna to evolve in total isolation. You will find massive prehistoric ferns, bizarre plants, and strange insects that have perfectly adapted to living in an environment where direct sunlight is a luxury that rarely exists. The bottom is a realm of eternal dimness, where underground streams silently weave through the thick, muddy floor, sustaining life forms that have never once felt the warmth of a clear, sunny day. Wandering through the damp, echoing depths of this monumental sinkhole, you cannot help but feel a profound, overwhelming sense of human insignificance. It is a hauntingly beautiful, deeply intimidating environment that forces you to realize just how deeply mysterious our own planet still is. The surface world we know so well feels like a distant, fading memory when you are completely swallowed by the ancient breathing lungs of the Earth itself. Longji rice terraces, trading the lifeless, chemical silence of the high desert for the vibrant, breathing pulse of the southern mountains, we now witness a place where the raw forces of geology and ancient human survival have perfectly collided. Tucked away in the misty, deeply rugged highlands of the Guangxi region, this is not a natural wonder shaped entirely by the blind forces of wind or tectonic uplift. What you are looking at is an overwhelmingly massive living monument to human endurance, meticulously carved into the nearly vertical mountain slopes by hand over 700 agonizingly long years. Beginning all the way back in the ancient Yuan dynasty, desperate local communities faced with an incredibly hostile, mountainous terrain that was practically impossible to farm made a bold, defiant decision. Instead of surrendering to the steep, unforgiving landscape, they methodically sliced the towering mountains into thousands of cascading horizontal ribbons. Viewed from the highest, cloud-swept vantage points, these incredibly intricate agricultural layers perfectly mimic the shimmering, overlapping scales of a massive sleeping dragon resting heavily across the valley, which is exactly why the name Longji translates directly to the dragon's backbone. The sheer, unfathomable scale of this ancient agricultural symphony will leave you completely breathless. We are talking about thousands upon thousands of individual fluidly curving terraces that wrap endlessly around the steep contours of the peaks, creating a dizzying, hypnotic topographical map that stretches as far as the eye can possibly see. But the true underlying genius of this place is not just in its breathtaking visual aesthetics. It lies in the invisible, highly advanced ancient engineering that keeps it alive. To conquer these sharp, punishing inclines, the original architects developed a brilliant, gravity-fed irrigation network that perfectly captures the torrential monsoon rains and natural mountain spring water, distributing it flawlessly down the slopes from the highest peaks to the lowest valleys. Every single drop of water is deliberately guided, creating a shimmering, cascading mirror effect across the entire mountain range during the early spring planting season. As you hike along the incredibly narrow, muddy ridges that separate these flooded pools, the crisp, fresh mountain air fills your lungs, and the profound, echoing silence of the rural landscape transports you centuries back in time. You can tangibly feel the heavy, unbroken legacy of countless generations of farmers who have patiently maintained these fragile dirt walls, passing down their intimate knowledge of the earth and water. It is a deeply humbling, almost spiritual experience to stand amidst this sprawling green labyrinth. The terraces represent the ultimate harmonious triumph of human ingenuity over a formidable natural obstacle, proving that when humanity respects and works intimately alongside the chaotic forces of the earth, the resulting creation can outlast entire empires and rival the beauty of nature itself.